Sagittarius. This person is no longer on your path. The universe is protecting you. Sagittarius, someone you once believed would walk with you forever has quietly stepped out of your story. Maybe there was no dramatic ending, no final conversation, just a slow fading, an unexplained silence, a sense that something essential dissolved without warning. You've replayed every memory, searching for the reason. Was it something I did? Did I fail them? But what if this disappearance isn't rejection but protection? The universe never removes people from a Sagittarian life out of cruelty. It does so out of mercy. You are the traveler of light, meant to keep expanding, and not everyone is capable of walking that far. Some souls arrive only to teach you how to see your worth, and once the lesson is learned, the energy between you begins to unravel naturally. What feels like abandonment is often divine rearrangement. This November, you'll understand that the distance growing between you and this person is not punishment. It's guidance. You've outgrown an emotional pattern that used to feel like home. You are no longer meant to dim your fire so someone else can feel comfortable in your glow. The universe is clearing space, not to leave you lonely, but to make room for relationships that match your true vibration. So breathe, Sagittarius. The emptiness you feel right now isn't a void. It's sacred preparation. Gate 1, the sacred withdrawal. Sagittarius, when the universe begins to remove someone from your path, it rarely does so with noise. The process begins quietly. A missed call here, a conversation that doesn't flow, a moment when your excitement meets silence on the other end. First, you rationalize it. You tell yourself they're busy, tired, distracted. You replay old messages, remembering how close you once were, how natural it all felt. But what you don't see yet is that something larger has already shifted. A divine recalibration has begun. The person you're losing wasn't taken from you suddenly. They began fading the moment their vibration no longer matched your growth. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion, wisdom, and truth. Your soul was never meant to live small, to hide, to adapt endlessly for the comfort of others. Yet in this connection you did. You lowered your volume, softened your opinions, dimmed your adventurous fire so you wouldn't make them feel inferior or insecure. You believed compromise was love, but what you were practicing was self-erasure. And when your energy began to shrink to keep them close, the universe intervened. This separation isn't punishment, Sagittarius. It's spiritual maintenance. You were orbiting a person who could not move at your velocity. You were growing faster, seeing clearer, dreaming wider. But they preferred the smaller version of you, the one who questioned herself, who sought permission before flying. They loved your warmth as long as it didn't outshine theirs. They cheered you on as long as your victories didn't exceed their comfort zone. And when your spirit began to expand beyond their reach, they started to retreat, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. That retreat is the universe's mercy. For Sagittarians born between November 22nd and December 1st, this disconnection likely came from someone you trusted deeply. A soulmate, a confidant, perhaps a family member who once felt like your anchor. They were your emotional mirror, but now that mirror reflects distortion, not truth. For those born between December 2nd and December 11th, the universe is removing a professional or social bond that kept you bound to smallness. Someone whose validation you once chased, whose approval you mistook for belonging. And for Sagittarius born between December 12th and December 21st, the removal comes from a collaborator in dreams, someone with whom you once imagined building a future that now feels too narrow for who you've become. You may feel anger first, confusion next, then the strange ache of emptiness that feels like grief. But look closer. Underneath the grief is relief. The tension you've been carrying, the invisible strain of being less than yourself, has started to dissolve. This is how the universe restores your energy. The silence you're resenting is the detox you asked for unconsciously. Sagittarius, you've always been generous with your fire. You light others without expecting anything in return. But you often forget that the sun too must rest. The person who's gone didn't know how to handle your intensity, not because you're too much, but because they were too afraid to rise to your level. They wanted your warmth without your truth, your loyalty without your freedom, your brilliance without your evolution. And so, the divine chose to separate what you could not. It's tempting to chase closure, to demand explanations, to fill the silence with your own words. But that impulse comes from the human part of you, not the divine. The universe rarely gives closure through conversation. It gives closure through transformation. When you begin to heal, when you stop craving what cannot meet you halfway, that's when you know the lesson has been completed. If you listen closely, the signs were always there. The small dismissive comment when you shared your dream, the shift in tone when you succeeded, the subtle withdrawal every time you were fully yourself. The universe doesn't remove people suddenly, it gives you clues, each one a gentle warning. This person cannot go where you're going. But Sagittarius, you're hopeful by nature. You believe love can conquer anything. You keep giving chances long after energy has proven incompatible. That is your beauty and your vulnerability. Now the cosmos is asking you to love yourself with the same loyalty you once gave to them. The pain you feel isn't just heartbreak, it's detoxification. You're purging attachments that were built on unbalanced energy. Every tear, every sigh, every moment of longing is your soul's way of making room for what's next. There's a sacred truth in this. Sometimes rejection is divine protection, and sometimes distance is grace. The person who's leaving your life was never meant to stay until the end of the story. Their chapter had purpose. They reminded you of your capacity to love, but also of your tendency to overextend. They awakened your compassion but also revealed where you still abandon yourself. They were not your forever. They were your mirror. And now, Sagittarius, that mirror has served its purpose. November marks the end of their role in your evolution. Do not chase what life has released. Bless it. Let it go with dignity, not resentment. Because just beyond this ending, a higher frequency is waiting. One that can meet your love, your dreams, your honesty without fear. The silence left behind isn't the absence of love. It's the presence of alignment. Trust that. The universe is not taking, it's refining. The removal isn't about them. It's about preparing you for the relationships that will finally honor your full light. You haven't been abandoned, Sagittarius. You've been upgraded. Gate to the echo of liberation. Sagittarius, what you're feeling now, the heaviness in your chest, the sudden quiet that lingers where laughter used to live, isn't abandonment. It's the echo of liberation. Your mind calls it loss, but your soul calls it release. The pain isn't punishment. It's the sound of chains loosening around your heart. For months, maybe years, you've sensed it, that subtle imbalance, the effort that always seemed to flow one way, the feeling that you were being asked to be smaller than your natural size. You convinced yourself it was normal, that love required patience, understanding, compromise. You mistook endurance for intimacy. But deep down, you always knew something wasn't right. Sagittarius, your spirit has always been wild, uncontainable, born to explore both the outer world and the inner truth. And because you're ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion and divine timing, you attract people who are fascinated by your light but frightened by its power. They see in you what they haven't yet found in themselves. Courage, authenticity, faith in the unseen. At first, they're drawn to it, craving your fire to warm their cold corners. But when your flame starts to grow, when it threatens to burn through their illusions, they pull away. That's what happened here. You didn't do anything wrong. You simply grew beyond the vibration they could sustain. The universe heard what your soul whispered long ago. I want to be seen completely. And because you kept compromising that wish, the universe intervened. It removed the person who could only see parts of you. The part that comforted them, not the part that challenged them. The part that listened, not the part that needed to be heard. The part that celebrated their success, not the part that needed to be celebrated in return. You didn't lose a person. You lost a mirror that could no longer reflect your wholeness. There's a difficult truth in spiritual growth. Not everyone is meant to accompany you past a certain level of awareness. Some souls come only to awaken you to what you deserve. Once you recognize that truth, the connection begins to unravel. No matter how tightly you hold it. You can delay the ending, but you can't prevent it. The frequency mismatch becomes unbearable, not out of resentment, but out of divine necessity. The universe can't allow you to stay in spaces that dishonor your growth. And so, life begins to rearrange itself without asking your permission. First, you'll try to resist. You'll analyze every detail, searching for logic, for closure. Sagittarius is a philosopher. You want to understand, to reason, to make meaning out of chaos. But some endings defy logic because they happen on the soul level. This isn't about who was right or wrong. It's about alignment. It's about vibration. The human mind thinks in stories: who said what, who left first, but the soul sees energy. It knows when love has completed its purpose. For those born between November 22nd and December 1st, this liberation echoes in your emotional life. You may find yourself missing someone who once made you feel safe but now feels energetically heavy. For Sagittarius born between December 2nd and December 11th, this release touches your social and professional realm, connections built on shared goals but not shared integrity. And for those born between December 12th and December 21st, it reaches the realm of destiny. Someone you once thought would help you build your dream is being cleared to make room for those who can match your divine fire. I know it hurts. Sagittarius hearts love deeply, freely, and without calculation. When you give everything. Losing someone you believed in feels like losing part of your own optimism. But here's the secret. What you gave was never wasted. Your love doesn't vanish just because it wasn't reciprocated equally. It becomes light, wisdom, compassion. It returns to you multiplied. You haven't been emptied. You've been refined. The void you feel right now is fertile. It's a garden waiting for new growth. But that growth requires you to stop watering dead soil. Every time you revisit the past conversation, reread the message, or replay what you could have done differently, you pour energy into what the universe has already ended. Sagittarius, your mind wants to fix, but your spirit knows how to fly. Let the memory drift. Let the silence speak. You will find that the more you stop chasing closure, the faster clarity arrives. And when it does, you'll start to remember who you were before you started dimming your light. You'll recall the version of yourself who laughed too loudly, dreamed too wildly, loved too freely. That version hasn't disappeared. It's been waiting for your permission to return. The universe didn't separate you from this person to make you smaller. It did so to help you reclaim that brilliance. You will start noticing small miracles. The air will feel lighter. You'll find yourself drawn to new conversations, new faces, new ideas. You'll meet people who don't flinch at your passion, who don't tell you to calm down when you're excited, who don't look away when your truth shines too bright. They'll feel familiar because they're part of your new frequency. These are the souls who can meet your fire without being burned by it. This is what liberation feels like, Sagittarius. Not instant joy but gradual lightness. The grief doesn't disappear, it transforms. It turns into gratitude, into peace, into quiet conviction. You'll begin to see that the person who left wasn't your loss. They were your teacher. They came to show you what conditional love feels like so you could recognize unconditional love when it arrives. And when that realization dawns, the ache in your chest will soften into understanding. You'll whisper to yourself, I didn't lose anything real. Because truth cannot be taken from you. What leaves your life after such divine intervention is always what your spirit has outgrown. The echo you're hearing now isn't loneliness. It's freedom ringing in your soul. Gate 3, the lesson of energetic reciprocity. Sagittarius, there is a sacred pattern woven through every connection you've ever had. An invisible exchange of energy that either nourishes or drains, expands or confines. November's separation isn't about punishment. It's about teaching you the purest form of reciprocity. Learning when energy is no longer mutual, and having the courage to stop giving what is not being honored. You've always been the sign of abundance, of heart, of hope, of generosity. You give easily because you believe love, like light, multiplies when shared. You see potential where others see flaws, and you often hold space for people still trying to find their way. That is one of your greatest strengths, Sagittarius, and one of your greatest vulnerabilities. Because in your longing to believe in people, you sometimes ignore the quiet evidence that their energy doesn't return to you. This person who has left your path was never meant to receive everything you gave. They were a mirror showing you the imbalance you've tolerated for too long. They entered your life to expose the places where you confused devotion with duty, compassion with sacrifice, optimism with denial. You kept offering warmth to someone who never learned to generate their own. You became their sun. And over time, the constant output of your light began to drain you. You told yourself that love was supposed to be selfless. But real love, Sagittarius, is not self-erasure. It's mutual expansion. For those born between November 22nd and December 1st, this lesson plays out in your emotional sphere. A relationship that slowly became one-sided, where your needs were consistently minimized, yet you stayed believing patience would heal the gap. For Sagittarians born between December 2nd and December 11th, this imbalance surfaced in your creative or professional world, giving loyalty to people or systems that profited from your energy but never recognized your value. And for those born between December 12th and December 21st, the lesson was internal, the realization that even your self-talk has been uneven, that you uplift others yet speak harshly to yourself. The universe is now balancing these scales. It's showing you through absence how much space was being taken by someone who could not truly meet you. You'll begin to notice subtle signs of recalibration. Your energy returning, your enthusiasm coming back, your sleep deepening, your intuition strengthening. It's as if life is exhaling with you again after years of holding its breath. This is what happens when the emotional circuitry is restored, when you stop sending electricity into a system that doesn't complete the circuit. First, you may feel guilt for stepping back. You may tell yourself, "But I promised to be there." Sagittarius, promises made under imbalance are not sacred. They are survival mechanisms. You were trying to earn love by proving your loyalty, but love that must be earned is never love, only transaction. The universe is not asking you to abandon compassion. It's asking you to practice compassion with discernment, to stop mistaking exhaustion for commitment, to understand that when your energy depletes in someone's presence, it is not a failure. It's data. It's the soul's way of saying, this exchange no longer sustains us. Your challenge in this gate is to stop trying to reopen doors that destiny has gently closed. That impulse comes from your Sagittarian optimism, the belief that with enough effort, everything can be repaired. But some connections are not broken, they are completed. You can honor what was without resurrecting what no longer is. Love them for the chapter they played, but don't confuse closure with reunion. The greatest gift this ending brings is a new understanding of what mutual energy feels like. Soon you'll begin to attract relationships that don't require effort to sustain, where the energy flows naturally in both directions, where your enthusiasm is met with enthusiasm, where your victories are celebrated rather than tolerated. These connections will feel like relief, not work. You'll wonder how you ever accepted less. You'll also begin to recognize the subtle red flags that used to slip past you. The friend who listens only when they need advice, the partner who withdraws when you shine, the colleague who takes credit for your ideas while praising you just enough to keep you compliant. These patterns are no longer compatible with who you've become. The new version of you doesn't chase acknowledgement. It attracts respect. And as you stand in this clarity, you'll notice something miraculous. Your energy no longer leaks. The vitality that once drained through unreciprocated connections now fuels creation, inspiration, and healing. You'll feel ideas returning, laughter bubbling up again, joy finding its way back into your mornings. Because when you stop pouring your spirit into the wrong vessels, abundance rushes in to refill you. Sagittarius, this is the divine design of loss. It is never subtraction without replacement. The universe doesn't empty your hands to leave you barren. It empties them so you can receive something better fitted to your frequency. The pain of letting go is temporary. The alignment that follows is eternal. So when you think of this person, the one who no longer calls, no longer reaches, no longer feels present, bless them. Thank them for teaching you what half-light feels like, because now you will never again mistake it for the sun. Thank them for showing you your capacity to love, because that capacity will now draw to you those who can match it. The lesson of energetic reciprocity is not about cynicism or guardedness. It's about wisdom. It's about realizing that your fire is holy and deserves to be met, not managed. It's about loving without losing yourself, giving without depletion, shining without apology. This is how the universe teaches Sagittarius to protect their light, not by dimming it, but by discerning who deserves to stand in its warmth. Gate for the return to radiance. Sagittarius, there comes a point in every journey where the grief turns into grace, where what once felt like an unbearable absence begins to feel like space. You will know you've reached that point when you wake one morning and realize that the person who once occupied your every thought no longer holds power over your energy. You won't feel anger. You won't even feel longing. You'll simply feel light. The universe didn't take them away to punish you. It removed them so you could remember what it feels like to be whole on your own. Your heart, Sagittarius, was never meant to revolve around anyone else's orbit. You are ruled by Jupiter, the cosmic traveler, the philosopher, the torchbearer of truth. Your essence is freedom, But freedom is not the absence of love. It's the presence of clarity. For so long you confused love with tethering, mistaking comfort for connection, permanence for purpose. But November's endings have shown you the truth. Some people are not destinations. They are crossings, brief but necessary, helping you learn the direction of your own compass. This gate is about reclaiming your radiance, about stepping into your natural brightness without apology or fear. The person who left was never your source of light. They were only a mirror reflecting it. When the mirror cracked, you thought your light disappeared. But it didn't. It was only hidden beneath grief, waiting for you to look inward again. You'll start to notice your energy returning in waves. At first, it will feel unfamiliar, like sunlight filtering through clouds after too long in shadow. You'll catch yourself laughing louder, dreaming bigger, speaking truth without fear of rejection. That's your soul remembering its original settings. That's life reconfiguring itself around your authentic frequency. For Sagittarius born between November 22nd and December 1st, this return will express itself through emotional renewal. The tears that once symbolized heartbreak will start to feel like baptism, cleansing you of resentment and regret. For those born between December 2nd and December 11th, your rebirth comes through purpose. You'll channel the pain of loss into a higher calling. Creative projects, mentoring, teaching, guiding others who are still walking through their darkness. And for those born between December 12th and December 21st, this radiance will take spiritual form. You'll begin to feel connected again to divine timing, to synchronicity, to the universe's whispers that remind you you're never truly alone. You see, Sagittarius, endings are never about loss. They're about alignment. What left your life was never meant to contain your full magnitude. And what's coming is not a replacement, it's a reflection of who you've become after remembering your worth. You won't need to chase this next connection, because it will flow toward you like light drawn to light. It will recognize you. It will mirror your healed energy. It will not shrink in your brilliance. It will rise to meet it. And yet, even before new people arrive, something deeper unfolds. Peace. Not the temporary peace of distraction or denial, but the unshakable peace of understanding your own value. You will stop apologizing for being too passionate, too curious, too intense, too alive. You will stop translating yourself for those who cannot speak your emotional language. You will no longer perform the smaller version of yourself to earn safety. The world may call you too much, but that's only because you no longer fit in the cages built by people who loved your warmth but feared your fire. November's transformation leaves you clearer than ever about your boundaries. Not as walls, but as sacred architecture that defines where your energy flows. You'll feel guided to say no more often, not out of bitterness but out of wisdom. You'll stop trying to convince anyone to stay. You'll stop watering deserts that never bloomed. You'll realize that those who are meant to be in your life will never require you to shrink to be loved. And here lies the ultimate revelation. The universe didn't remove this person from your life. It removed them for your life. Their exit was the permission slip you needed to evolve. You could not carry their energy into your next chapter because it was written for an older version of you. The one who still believed that love required endurance more than joy, sacrifice more than truth. You have outgrown that chapter, and this ending is the graduation. Soon, Sagittarius, gratitude will replace grief. You'll look back and realize that what felt like abandonment was in fact divine choreography. Every tear, every silence, every unanswered message was a redirection toward authenticity. You'll no longer mourn what ended. You'll thank it for making room for what's real. By the end of this cycle, your life will begin to feel lighter. Your laughter will sound freer. You'll draw people and opportunities that meet your energy without needing to be edited or explained. And one day, when you least expect it, someone will step into your world and love you not despite your intensity, but because of it. That will be your confirmation. You never needed to tone down to be loved. You only needed to stop offering your light to those unready to see. Sagittarius, the return to radiance is not about finding someone new. It's about remembering that you were never incomplete. The fire within you was always enough to guide you home. What the universe removed was everything that distracted you from that truth. So stand tall now. Let your shoulders drop, your breath deepen, your gaze soften toward the horizon. You are not broken. You are reborn. The person who is no longer on your path was never your anchor. They were your awakening. And now you are finally free to shine without asking permission. Conclusion: gratitude for the release. Take a breath, Sagittarius. Feel what has shifted inside you. Where once there was the ache of loss, there is now the quiet hum of relief. The silence that once felt unbearable has transformed into space. Clear, sacred, alive. The person who once held such gravity over your heart no longer defines your story. They were a chapter, not the whole book. What remains now is you. Unfiltered, unafraid, and ready to meet life without pretending. You've crossed a divine threshold this November. The universe has done what you could not. It released you from an energy that no longer matched your vibration. You've been pulled out of orbit around someone who needed you to stay small, so you could return to your natural rhythm of expansion. And in that release, something profound has happened. You've remembered that your worth has never depended on who stays. It lives in your capacity to love without losing yourself, to let go without closing your heart. From this point forward, your relationships will look different. Not because others have changed, but because you have. You'll stop chasing connection as validation. You'll start recognizing resonance as truth. You'll learn to honor those who meet your energy, and to bless those who cannot without bitterness. You'll find that love built on mutual light is easier, safer, and deeper than anything you've known before. So if you still wake up some mornings missing their presence, whisper gratitude instead of grief. Thank them for being the lesson that unlocked your higher self. Thank them for teaching you the difference between attachment and alignment. And thank yourself for finally choosing peace over patterns, clarity over confusion, authenticity over approval. Sagittarius, November was not the month you were left behind. It was the month you came home to yourself. Let that awareness settle deep within you. Your fire is no longer seeking permission to burn. It's lighting the path ahead. If this message resonated, share it so another soul can find comfort in their own release. Like, comment, and subscribe to Zodiac Wisdom to keep walking this journey with Sophia, where astrology becomes healing and endings become beginnings.